Last Friday, Bryan Kohberger was taken into custody at his parents' home in Effort, Pennsylvania, in connection with the murders of 4 Idaho college students. The 28-year-old graduate student was pursuing a PhD in criminology at the Washington State University, about 10 miles away from the crime scene. Moscow Police Chief James Fry told ABC News that Kohberger is believed to be the only suspect in the high-profile case and that no other arrests are likely to be made.
The suspect's family released a statement following his arrest, expressing their sadness for the families of the victims, saying that they have cooperated fully with law enforcement to, quote, seek the truth and promote his presumption of innocence. Joining us now to discuss is senior national correspondent for NewsNation, Brian Entin. Welcome, Brian. So,
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see you. This is obviously the break in the case we were all very hoping would come soon. Can you tell us, what led to this arrest and elaborate on? So you're in Pennsylvania right now. So obviously this is a totally different state across the country from where this took place. You fill us in on what you've been reporting on.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really saw this coming, that this would now end on literally the other side of the country from Idaho. I'm in Monroe County, Pennsylvania right now, where the hearing for Bryan Kohberger will be happening this afternoon. It's expected to be quick because, he said his lawyer says that he's going to waive his extradition hearing and will not fight being brought back to Idaho. So he may be back in Idaho as early as tonight. In terms of what led to release the probable cause affidavit, they tell us that they won't release that until he is back on the ground in Idaho. Apparently, there's an Idaho law that they can't release that affidavit until he's physically back in the state. But from what we can gather, it seems that they were tracking him for quite some time, at least several days. They must have had some kind of evidence. His attorney, his public defender, told me that he drove Bryan Kohberger, the suspect, drove in mid-December in a white Honda Elantra from Washington State University, where he was a PhD student, which is very, very close to Moscow, Idaho, where the murders happened. That he drove from Washington to Pennsylvania mid-December with his father in a white Honda Elantra. And you'll remember that's the car that police have been looking for. So clearly the car was some part of the connection. DNA likely also involved, but we're still waiting to get all those details.
So we're trying to obviously to learn more about him, and there's been a lot of reporting on what can be gleaned about him from social media and various places. I understand he's a militant vegan. He refused to even eat food off plates that had pots that had been used to cook meat. There's discussion of possible drug issues, a kind of loner personality being described, and then somewhat intriguingly, someone studying criminology and that kind of thing. What sort of profile is being constructed of this guy?
So, yeah, it's interesting what you say about him being vegan. We've confirmed that even in the jail here in Monroe County that he's getting vegan food. You mentioned he was very strict about it. His aunt has said that when he came to visit, he wouldn't eat off of her pots and pans that have ever touched meat. She had to buy all new pots and pans. Clearly very intense in that way. He studied in criminal justice, and then he was getting his PhD in criminology right now at Washington State University in Pullman, Washington. So certainly an interesting background. I should also point out, he claims that he's innocent through his public defender, that he plans to fight all of these charges. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
So you mentioned that there are not other suspects being investigated right now. It seems like there's a relatively high degree of confidence that this is the suspect that they're looking for at this time. Yet we don't know anything at all about what led the police to zero in, apart from this evidence about the make and model of the car. Was there any DNA evidence or anything of that sort?
So there are reports that there was DNA evidence, ancestral DNA that initially linked Kohberger to the crimes. Again, like full roadmap of what led to the arrest until we get probable is connected. And obviously, again, the car that he was in, you had the whole country looking for that white Hyundai Elantra. And he does have that car. So They've searched the car now. They've done search warrants at a couple of different scenes. His parents' house here in Pennsylvania, also his office. He had an office because he was a PhD student, so they searched his office at Washington State University, and also his apartment.
Well, I know, I'm sure the families of the victims are very, glad to see an arrest in this case. Obviously, the process needs to play out, and, we need to, obviously, the public needs to know whatever the police know that led them to conclude that this is likely the person. But I think it had been so long. People, I think, were not necessarily expecting an immediate break in the case. But did you get the sense that perhaps the police were onto him for some time, and it was just a matter of locating him, or they really, in the last, week or however long it's been, just, they got onto him and then they found him?
Yeah. Sorry, you were breaking up a little because of the service out here in Pennsylvania. It's kind of a rural area. It's not so good. We definitely get the sense that they were following him for quite some time. We don't know exactly how long at this point. Police were so tight-lipped throughout the process. So that's something we're eager to learn about.
Yeah. Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you staying on top of the story, which we will continue to follow. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
More Rising right after this.